evening, everyone. It's Thursday, November 10th, 2016. I'm Kayla Coughlin.
And I'm Alexandria Garcia. Welcome to the Local Live.
We recap the 2016 elections for you.
The Larchmont community comes together after a devastating fire.
Mamaronec's halftime beverage store is on TV once again. This and more local stories in our segment, In the Media.
Find out what some local businesses are doing to help in the fight against cancer. Details coming up.
This week, Bullseye Resource Center in Mamaroneck is in the spotlight.
We have our newly elected Village of Mamaroneck trustees on tonight's roundtable. Stay tuned.
Campaign season finally came to a close this past Tuesday. Donald Trump was elected as the 45th President of the United States, defeating Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. Incumbent Democratic State Senator George Latimer defeated Republican Julie Killian with 55.3% of the votes. He won his third consecutive term as senator for the 37th District, which includes Mamaroneck, Rye, and New Rochelle. Incumbent Steve Otis ran unopposed for re-election in the 91st Assembly District, which includes Mamaroneck and Larchmont.
The Democrats swept all three trustee spots in the Village of Mamaroneck, defeating Republicans Dennis Cuccinella, Maria DeRose, and Molt Stockert. The winners were environmental lawyer and Professor Victor Tafour with 19% of the votes, former chairman of the Village Budget Committee, Keith Wade with 18.2%, and incumbent trustee Leon Potak with 18.1%. We'll hear more from our newly elected trustees coming up in our roundtable. As for the much talked about referendums, they both passed with over 3,000 votes each. The propositions will allow the trustees to appoint a village attorney and members of the planning and zoning boards.
The town of Larchmont is showing its true colors as it has come together in the wake of a devastating fire. In the early morning of November 6th, a fire destroyed an apartment building on Palmer Avenue. The Larchmont Fire Department fought for 6 hours to extinguish the flames and ensure no one was hurt. Thankfully, everybody survived without injury, but 11 families were left homeless, and the business of Love Bella and Love Shoes were completely totaled due to smoke and water damage. In all of this tragedy, the people of Larchmont were a beacon of hope as they rose to the challenge immediately. Residents were on the scene giving food and coffee to first responders and immediately organizing ways to help. By Monday afternoon, the village courtroom, as well as the police and fire departments, were full of volunteers sorting through clothes and other donations.
The Facebook page Love Larchmont has been instrumental in the efforts. Tiffany Smith started a thread for clothing, food, and shelter. Members of the community posted specific items that were needed on the page and offered places for the families to stay, shower, or even just unwind for a bit. Now, work gloves are also being donated to help dig through the rubble. Ouray Gourmet and New York Sports Club are among the long list of local businesses that offer their services for victims free of charge. GoFundMe pages have also been made for any victims that do not have insurance, and gift cards have also been collected. The families are still struggling with finding new homes. Tiffany Smith has told us that members of the community have opened their doors until the families have situated their housing.
Mayor Walsh posted on the Love Larchmont page saying, "Everyone has been so touched by the generosity of this community, and this is why people love Larchmont."
Here's Kat Galliano with what's trending in the media.
Students in Mamaroneck are really making a name for themselves in the music world. The All-State Music Festival in Rochester only has 12 slots, and 8 of them will be filled by Mamaroneck High School students. 34 other MHS students were also chosen to perform at the Westchester County Area All-State Festival. Both of these groups will be acknowledged at the Board of Education meeting on November 15th. But if you'd like to check them out now, go to the Larchmont Mamaroneck patch. More news and music. On Tuesday, November 15th, the Mamaroneck Union Free School District will open its new e-music lab. This new music lab was made possible by a grant from the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation. E-music is a new type of learning program that allows students to perfect compositional and arrangement skills. It will certainly exercise the students' creative muscles. You can go on mamaroneckschools.org for more information. On October 6th, voters rejected a $33.5 million bond for the Rhinebeck Union Free School District. 263 residents voted in favor of the bond, while 280 voted against it. Now the school district is looking to propose a new bond. There is no clear date on when this proposal will be released or when a new vote will take place, but school officials are expressing the need for the new bond to be approved, as different construction projects have to be undertaken. For more on this, see the Mamaroneck Review. Mamaroneck's halftime beverage is on TV once again. Showtime's series The Affair shot a few scenes in the store back in August, but owner Jason Daniels couldn't talk about it until now. The Affair has taped all around the Hudson Valley, and its third season airs on November 20th. To get the full story, go to the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. And a house in New Rochelle is facing foreclosure. Why is this news? Well, one of the co-signers on the mortgage of this house is none other than P. Diddy. An auction will be held on December 2nd for the 4,090 square foot home. Check out the New Rochelle Patch. If you can find it online, you can find it right here in the media. I'm Kat Galliano.
Now it's time for some local trivia. Then on tonight's roundtable, we'll be taking your calls, emails, and tweets as we chat with newly elected Village of Mamaroneck trustees. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome to the Roundtable of the Local Life. I'm Mike Witch and with me is Maura Coughlin.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Good to see you too. And we have some special guests tonight. They are the winners of the Trustee of the Mamaroneck race, the recent election. And they'll introduce themselves in 1 second. But first we want to let you know about how to contact us and how to ask them questions.
That's right. As always, we want you to join the conversation. You can call, email, or tweet. The contact information is available on your screen.
And let's now meet our guest. Sitting right next to me is Keith Waite. Keith, can you give us a 10 or 15 second introduction?
Sure, Mike. Yes, my name is Keith Waite. I have been in Mamaroneck for 18 years, came over from the UK. I'm married with 2 sons who went through the Mamaroneck school system and now live and work in the city.
And this was your first run for trustee?
It was indeed, yes. I am currently the chair of the budget committee for the village and also on the industrial advisory committee. But this is, yes, my first run.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And next to you is Victor Tafour. Can you do the same, Victor?
Yes, good evening. Certainly, Victor Tafour. I've been here 12 years, originally from Colombia. Came to the U.S. to study about 17 years ago. Actually, been here with my wife and my daughter, who's 10. She's a 5th grader.
Mm-hmm.
I teach part-time environmental law and practice environmental as well.
And this is your first time as a trustee as well?
First time, yes.
Is still excited?
Absolutely.
Your
yes,
second day
very
in.
excited.
And next to you is a familiar face in the Village of Mamaroneck, Leon. For those who've never met you.
Leon Potak. I've been trustee for 4 years. I've lived in the village for 18 years with my wife, raised 3 children. The youngest went through Mamaroneck High School and is about to graduate college and will be off the payroll as of June 7th.
And you are all Democrats, and so the Democrats swept.
We did.
But we also need to acknowledge that everybody who runs for a trustee seat or a mayoral seat in Mamaroneck Village needs to be commended, because it's a tough road to do that.
Absolutely.
And get out and
It's a real
shake hands.
commitment.
It is.
Absolutely is.
As is being a trustee.
Yes. Well, now that you mention it, and Leon, now that you've got 4 years behind you, what exactly is a trustee in the Mamaroneck Village? You're not the chief administrator of the village?
Correct. We are a 5-member board of trustees composed of 4 trustees and the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
We are the legislative body. We make laws, we set policy for the village. We appoint a village manager, and we supervise the village manager, and his job is to be the chief executive officer for the village, the chief administrative officer. All employees report to him. We have a police department with a police chief who has a staff of some 60 people who report to him, but it is our job to set, on the board level, to set policy for the village and to make laws, set property taxes, and virtually anything at the local level, and most importantly, land use. We will now appoint the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, and we are empowered to set zoning laws.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the 2 referendums, which most people know have passed as well, with a healthy majority there. Let me ask you about something that seems to have come up in all the forums that we had in the community, and that's what one newspaper, what the Mamaroneck Review called a dysfunctional system as far as the Board of Trustee meetings, and lack of civility and lack of respect. Keith, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that has concerned me, and partly why I actually wanted to run. I find on the volunteer committees that we have, which are also bipartisan, that we all get on very well, we all sort of respect each other, and we achieve, some good solutions to put forward. It just seems to be the Board of Trustees that there seems to be this dysfunction. Whether it's personalities or whether it's been filmed, so you tend to actually overreact. But one of the things we want to do is to bring back some sort of courtesy and respect into those proceedings. We are setting an example to the village. We're setting an example to our children who may be interested in local politics, and therefore we have a responsibility with a tone from the top to actually lead by example.
There was a comment that I believe you made when somebody asked you about that, and you said it was we're sort of seeing a replication of what's going on the national level. But now that there seems to be a degree of civility between Mr. Trump and Hillary Clinton and Obama, at least based on concession speech and comments that I've heard on television, maybe that'll set a tone for the village as well?
I hope so. If we can put that into practice, it will be a major achievement. I said before, it'd be great to have high school kids sit in on Board of Trustee meetings to see how local government works. We have a little while to go before we can do that.
Victor, there was a comment that you made at I believe it was the Oriented Property Owners Association forum at the library, about the difficulty of being a trustee. You said it's the hardest job, and you said at that point it was a lack of resources. And I was wondering what resources you were talking about. Physical staff, money, material, budgets?
All the above, but of course the one that concerns us first and everybody is the resources we have here, and we need to stay under the budget. And there's a percentage of our budget that's covered by the taxes, and we're mindful that there's still a gap there that it's covered by other income. So there's very little maneuvering here. So the pressure to, for example, fix the roads, do water improvements, those have to be through grants, a little bit through the budget. So financial resources are scarce, and also human resources, as we've been talking about. The hardest job is managing land use and zoning, and most of that is done by volunteer boards, and they have a tremendous job. They do it with some resources, but very little. So that's what I was pointing out, is that in government, the local government has the toughest job, and it's actually, if it's not done by the federal government, the state, the county, it comes here, and that's really what will make a difference, particularly in environmental issues and development, which is now environmental issues are really becoming more of a mainstream, or at least becoming more important for the actual business and economic push that we need.
Leon, there are proposed new laws that I read about that I guess, did the entire Board of Trustees vote for these new laws, or was it not 100% everyone in favor?
The zoning laws that are under consideration have not been voted on. The genesis of those laws was significant complaints from residents that there was overdevelopment in the village, that the character of the neighborhoods were being threatened. So the board unanimously asked the planning board to evaluate those comments and to come back with recommendations to us. And that's what they did. They've come back with recommendations for 6 different changes in zoning laws.
Do these affect mainly housing, or are they commercial, industrial?
It's housing.
Housing.
It's residential housing. It deals with what's called the floor area ratio, FARs, namely how much you can build on a given property. The one that's been the most controversial is this proposal to rezone what's R5, meaning that the minimum size lot in the village has to be at least 5,000 square feet. The planning board recommended that we expand that to 6,000 square feet. And there are building height, corner lots, there are a bunch of them. And at this point where they sit is the planning board, which is bipartisan, endorsed these recommendations. They came up with them working with the planning department. We have a village planner, we have an assistant village planner who did a lot of the technical work. They came unanimously, recommended these. We got feedback from the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission. And as we speak at the request of the board, representatives from the 3 board are meeting currently in the library to discuss and work out and figure out what makes sense for the village. And then it will come back to the board to decide what to do. So that's in progress. It's been in the works for 8 months. We started in March. It's been a slow process. And we're getting to a point where I think we will be able to make the current board to make some decisions about what to do about each of these laws.
If these laws pass, does that necessarily mean that a whole bunch of people are all of a sudden in non-conforming, or are they grandfathered in? Or
It's the one that would create nonconformity would be the change from R5 to R6. So right now in the village, 21% of all residences are nonconforming for lot size. Much of Shore Acres, for example, is nonconforming. But it has no impact on the ability of people to do anything on that property except for sell a piece of the property. But there's been a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication about what the impact really is. And before we do anything, we need to be sure that our residents, if we decide to go that route, and that has not been decided, if we're going to do anything, we should be sure that our residents fully understand what it is that we're doing and not feel that somehow government is imposing penalties on them.
are there plans or thoughts about how you're going to inform people? It sounds complicated. And you can certainly use LMC TV and the local live as a vehicle for explaining things.
We've done, back in the spring, around the May, June timeframe, we sent a letter to every household that would be affected by the R5 to R6. We've had meetings, but it's never enough. You never can communicate too much to the community, and so we have to keep working at it.
I think that's one of the things as trustees we should try and do better and have a system that is better, and that's the communication. I think in the current social media environment we can do a lot more to communicate to our residents, and I think that should be something on the table.
Right. Larchmont, for example, did just simple one-page fact sheets about each of the changes. I think as the board moves forward, and I don't know if all these changes are going to be passed by this board or maybe looked at more integrally, more holistic, and they will wait. I think in any case, they should be presented to the board and to the people in forums, in ways they can understand them a little better, because there are complex issues. But certainly more important than anything is that things have to be looked at very carefully before we move forward. So I think we've been talking very strongly that this can't be rushed. This has to be done properly, take a nice breath, and now that the election's over, this was nothing to do with politics. We'll do the right thing, and people should know that we're going to take this slowly and do the right thing.
Another issue that people are talking about is the flood mitigation. Do you have an update on where we are on that?
Where we are is that the Army Corps of Engineers is revising the plan that was initially presented to the community. There will be changes. The key changes in it will be that the Ward Avenue Bridge will be taken down but rebuilt. The walkways in Columbus Park, there are 2 walkways. The original plan would have just taken them out in order to deal with flood mitigation, but the new plan we believe, we've been told, will be to replace them. And that plan will be completed sometime in the next several months. At that point, it will go to Congress for authorization and funding. And once that takes place, then the Army Corps would start with the design phase. What they've done so far is really 1/3 of the design. The next stage is to finish that design and to work with the community as they do that. And that will be working with the Board of Trustees and the village manager with the Army Corps.
So that still has to happen. It's not a matter where people are going to be suddenly shocked to find equipment in their backyard.
No, it'll be
Yeah.
a slow process.
It'll be at least
And-
2 years before any
But
ground
you do
is done.
believe the village is going to go forward with?
Oh, absolutely. The village absolutely has given the green light that we want to go forward. The Army Corps understands that. They're very pleased with the relationship with the village government, with the village board, and with the enthusiasm by which we come to support the Army Corps. Now it's a matter of working with the Army Corps for the details in terms of addressing concerns that were raised during the review process, and they are looking forward to that.
You had a question?
Yes, we were talking before about the composition of the board politically. What, if anything, should we make of there being no women on the board?
Well, I'll tell you, on the Democratic side, we had a nominating committee. I believe it was 9 people. It was majority women. So the 3 candidates who the nominating committee chose were the 3 of us, and there'll be another election in a year, another election in 2 years. We encourage women to get, to get involved and to put themselves up as candidates to each of the party nominating processes.
Of the candidates who came forward, was it mainly men? Do you know? I mean, you know.
We were not the nominating committee.
So you don't know who put their
No.
names
But we
in?
do
Okay.
understand there were women who actually put their names forward as well.
I'd like to ask a question about the aging infrastructure, and I'm not talking about myself.
Or the trustees either, I assume.
No, not the trustee. No person. We do have issues, all municipalities have issues with the infrastructure, and it came up in several of the forums about paying attention to that. And are there specific plans or approaches that you want to take,
Do you wanna-
other than paying attention to it? I mean, how do we pay attention to it?
Well, you have to work with priorities. And I think that's probably something that we need to straighten up. And some things are inevitable and must be fixed. Roads, a lot of people complain about the sidewalks, and they're probably right. So some things need to be just addressed, and some other are more complicated, like sewer infrastructure. And on those, we've been doing some work, and we'll continue that. But on a larger planning, I think we need to think about the long-term sustainability of the village and try to picture the village more into the future, because it's perfectly situated. We have a lot of interesting things going on and plans. So in order to be ahead of the game, we have to build it into a more structured approach or more comprehensive planning sustainability. We're going to try to do some of that.
Do you
No, I was
want to
going
add
to say,
something?
I think as a public servant, it's important to look strategically at some of these things rather than a 2-year horizon or even less from a political point of view. So I think we should start investing in strategic plans for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And obviously we may not see them all through, but it's important to think much further ahead than often people do.
Is there a plan now that we are following?
We have a long-term capital plan, but the fact that something is on that plan does not mean it gets spent. Probably the key priority at this point in terms of the village infrastructure has to do with the DPW, Department of Public Works buildings on Fayette. Those are aging. We should do something about them, and we're looking forward. The board is looking to the administration to come back with proposals and possibilities for us. About 3 years ago, we actually retained a consultant to look at all the village properties, all the buildings, and tell us whether or not we can consolidate and what we can do. So there was a conversation about taking Village Hall from the Regatta and putting it into what is now the courthouse and the police department and the building department. Those are big expenses and big decisions, and we need to always be looking at it, but the most immediate area where we need to look at is DPW.
One of the areas that you addressed in several of the forums was a desire to see more uniform enforcement of laws and codes. And
You've done your homework.
a bit, yes. Can you give us an example of? I mean, one of the things that a little problem that came up in the community was the Ralph's ice cream, and that, I believe that was explained that it was not the correct permit that was authorized.
Right, but just stepping back in terms of the uniform enforcement, I think whether it's perceived or not, it's really important that people feel that they're treated fairly. And that is partly when you see uneven enforcement, where you don't get the consistent enforcement or the persistent enforcement, whether it be zoning, whether it be the police, whether it be parking. And I think it's important for us to make sure that those things are dealt with. On the Ralph's issue, I don't know if you want to talk about Ralph's, but Ralph's issue, from what we understand, yes, the green light was given without realizing there was a need for a food permit for that, and that's what's really caused the problem. So hopefully that can be resolved. It's currently with the ZBA.
And do we have the necessary resources to do the enforcement that you're talking about?
I believe we do.
Victor?
Did you want to add something?
What I want to say is not getting into the Ralph's issue specifically, but I do think the land use applications of those development projects are complex, and at least the residents have to be sure that at least all the forms, everything that the basic stuff of an application is done properly. Some of the complaints, and I think they're right, from some residents are complaining that you get there and you look at the forms and they probably didn't check here this box or that box, and maybe that's why they didn't check the box where they needed to submit certain information. I think those things really can't happen. They are more administrative, but we want to make sure that the citizens are clear that everything is done to at least have complete applications, that we're working for them. And it's not just how the process proceeds and something that's going to slip in. We have to do a better job on that.
We're running out of time, but no discussion of the Village of Mamaroneck would be complete without asking about parking meters.
What about them?
What about them? Is there good news?
The good news is the Parking Advisory Committee is in the final stages of coming up with recommendations for the Board of Trustees. Once those recommendations are presented, and we're eagerly awaiting those recommendations will be presented to the public for discussion and review by the board and the public. And then we will see what the next phase of the parking saga goes.
The saga of parking.
That's right.
Before we go, are you available to residents who want to contact you
Absolutely.
directly? Can you tell us what the correct email would be for you?
That's an easy one. lpotok@vomny.org. It's on the website. It's
Okay.
easy.
Okay.
What
Or you
about-
could just write to email mayorandboard@vomny.org, and it gets to all 5 board members.
And what about residents who might want to get involved? Where-
That's a really
Please,
good point, yeah.
good reminder. At the organizational meeting in December, we appoint volunteers to all the volunteer committees where there are openings, where there's turnover. We encourage the public to send in resumes, to send in expressions of interest of what they're interested in, and we'll try to fit them in a way that they can contribute.
And are those boards or openings listed on the website as well, the village website?
All the boards are listed under the boards and committees, and it shows when terms expire, but
Right.
some of the people currently serving are eligible to be reappointed. Some of them will be interested in being reappointed. Some will decide not to. Some people will term out. They will not be eligible to be reappointed. So we won't know for another 10 days how many openings we'll have or where. But and we typically have openings interim as well. If people want to get involved, we will find a way to get them involved.
That's how we started. So
Well, that's good.
it's nice to see new people come in and want to be and willing to help out.
And I realized I promised we would talk about the referendum, but we've run out of time. Perhaps you'll come back one or all of you would be. And thank you for being a delightful guest.
Thanks for having us.
You're quite welcome. Feel free to come back again.
And if you all stay tuned, we'll be back with more community stories and the answer to the trivia question, which Mike says he knows.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm very excited to be joined in the studio today by Eddie Guideman, the owner and lead trainer at Push Fitness. Eddie's here to talk about an event that Push Fitness and the American Cancer Society are presenting in partnership with Fiore Pilates and Tovami Yoga. It's called Sweat for the Cure. So Eddie, could you tell me where the idea for Sweat for the Cure came from?
Sure. When it comes to cancer, I think we all have our personal story, something that touched us in our lives directly with cancer. For me, in my early 20s, my dad was diagnosed with melanoma, and a few years later he passed away. And that's kind of how I got into the field that I'm in. I started running the marathon in his memory and then to raise money for cancer, and that's kind of where the birth of Sweat for the Cure came from.
That's very inspirational.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yep.
Now, could you tell us about what Sweat for the Cure is and like how it's going to be set up?
Sure. When I opened Push Fitness in Mamaroneck, obviously as you establish your business, you want to get more involved in the community. The idea is basically a fitness-a-thon on Sunday, November 13th at our studio, Fiore Pilates and Tovami Yoga. There's all different types of classes. You can take one class, you can take 2 classes, you can take 3 classes. We have runs, we have yoga, Pilates, obviously, some boot camps, some Zumba. So there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Now, how does the amount of classes, how does that work in regards to like donations or something?
Good. So you can pay for a single class. If you go online, you'll see the class schedule and you can choose what you're interested in. Or you can donate a little bit more and take multiple classes, unlimited classes across the 3 studios that morning.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get Fiore and Tovami involved?
Part of it is geography, right? So we're right all along Boston Post Road. But mostly, you know, they're 2 great ladies, Toby and Tracy. We're really good friends. We've worked together in the past. And, you know, it's a great cause. So they were very eager to get involved.
Now, if we're looking for any more information or how to get involved, where can we go?
The easiest place to go is the Eventbrite page. That's where you'll register. You can see the class schedule there, and all the other information is right on the page.
All right, sounds very nice. I think this is an awesome cause and just organization. I love that. I love this idea. I think it's great, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Your whole story with us.
I appreciate it very much.
It really is inspirational, and this event will be taking place Sunday, November 13th, so please everyone get out there and sweat for the cure. Now stay tuned for more Local Live.
I recently visited Bullseye Resource Center in Mamaroneck and learned about the world of kiln forming and the many products that can be created by this unique art form. Bullseye is known worldwide for manufacturing glasses by kiln forming. Without further ado, Bullseye Resource Center is in the spotlight. Widely known as their first company in the world to formulate and manufacture glass, I'm here located at Bullseye Resource Center to learn the latest of kiln forming, among other unique traits of creating glass art right here in Mamaroneck. Bullseye Glass Resource Center is located at 115 Hoyt Avenue. It is a one-stop destination for glass fusing supplies, and it is only a short walk from the Mamaroneck train station on the Metro-North New Haven line. They're open from Tuesday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. As I walked into the Resource Center, the new exhibit called Hidden Narratives caught my attention, and I was able to speak to Michelle Gottfredson, the Bullseye Resource Center manager, on the artists featured.
It contains art by Erin Dixon, Jeffrey Sarmiento, and Catherine Whiteman, super talented artist. Quite a variety of works and just a colorful, kind of brilliant show.
At the Resource Center, the manager and I spoke of several elements that has attracted many designers and architects who look to design homes or who are artists showcasing in galleries. Some elements involved in the process includes the difference of clears, textures, tiles, and overall style. One can even design their own dining room table, kitchen backsplash, and personal bench.
Really, you could take a cutting class with us and maybe an introductory class or two and really be ready to go. And what's nice is we offer open studio sessions for our students. And in those sessions, they can come in and they buy their materials, they come in the studio, rent time and rent kilns, and they get to come in and create, whatever they feel like making.
With options to make perfect pendants for necklaces and unique decals, I was curious to know why people are ultimately fascinated with kiln forming.
It's just really accessible. There's so much you can do with it. It's unlike glass blowing in that, you don't need years and years of experience to really hone in your skill. Really, you could take a cutting class with us and maybe an introductory class or two and really be ready to go.
Since visiting Bullseye and learning about the many methods of creating glass art, I've gotten the urge to join a class myself, and I hope our viewers at home feel the same way too. Reporting for the Local Live, I'm Alexandria Garcia.
You're watching The Local Live,
the only news show on Larchmont and Mamaroneck on LMC TV.
The monster broke out of that house and ran across the street this way. It ran into that forest.
Well, what do you suppose we do about it? We're going after that thing?
Be ready for anything.
These are the kids that the blood matches.
I think you should come see this. There's no sign of the body.
I want to find that girl.
Wow, the rascal really looks awesome. We're all excited for the second episode. Now I'd like you to meet Socks. She loves to cuddle, snuggle, and be held. She's about 14 weeks old and is 15 pounds. Socks loves dogs of all sizes and humans as well. She is happy in her playpen with her toys and is currently working on her house training. Socks will be the perfect addition to any family. For more information on how to adopt Socks or browse other adorable pets, go to www.ny-petrescue.org.
Remember, if you'd like to keep us on the air, support our program by checking out our website at www.lmctv.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner. We really appreciate any contribution.
We're always welcoming new interns and volunteers, so send your emails to the Local Live at lmctv.org and join us. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Coughlin.
And I'm Alexandria Garcia. See you next week for another episode of The Local Live.